Springfield XD Tactical model. Yeah, you can see right there it says tactical, so it's absolutely tactical. I think really the only difference between this and the other XDs is that it has a 5-inch barrel as opposed to say a 4, which is what I think they call the service model, or the 3, which is their subcompact model. And since the regular XD has been out, they've released other variants like the XDM. It has a match grade barrel, maybe a little bit better trigger, a little bit better sights, and since then they've released the XD Mod 2, which has a really tactical grip zone around here. So sometimes I kind of wonder why I do what I do, and certainly why do I buy the things that I buy. And really the reason that I bought this firearm, I think, was a pretty silly reason. It was the first semi-automatic handgun that I had ever purchased. It was before the XDM or the Mod 2 had been out. And I was looking for my first handgun, and the obvious choices were things like the Glock 22, or one of the SIGs, or an H&K, or a Springfield, or a Beretta, whatever it is that you want to look at. And I think the reason that I ended up buying this was because they had, you bought the handgun, then it came with a holster and a mag pouch and a speed loader and the stuff that they call the XD gear. And in hindsight, it was a pretty stupid reason to buy this gun. And since I bought it, you know, I've realized some things that I don't really care for about it. The gun works fine. Of course, if your gun has never malfunctioned on you, then you probably aren't shooting it enough. But this gun, by and large, is fine. One of the things that I have never liked about it is that for a firearm this size, this large, it only holds 12 rounds of 40 Smith & Wesson. Of course, it comes with a spare magazine. But, you know, if you can't get the job done in 12 rounds, you're in a sad state of affairs. But, you know, something in a similar size like the Glock holds, you know, 15 rounds in the magazine, and the newer XDM, I think, holds 16 plus 1 rounds of 40 caliber. And actually, this firearm in 45, the magazine holds 13. So I just have never completely understood why there's such a low capacity in this firearm. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and safety check this firearm. I did before I turned the camera on, but just to remind you, the proper way to safety check a firearm is to lock the slide to the rear, and you're looking for an empty magazine well and an empty chamber. We can see that that is the case there. I'll just show you how to disassemble the XD, just in case you haven't had any experience with it. But you basically lock the slide to the rear, pull the slide back, push your little slide lock here up into this little notch in your slide, and you can rotate this little lever upwards, and then release your slide with the slide lock. Make sure your firearm is pointed in a safe direction before you ever put your finger on the trigger, and you have to press the trigger. And by the way, that has a little grip safety there. The trigger can't depress unless you actually depress that safety lever. But then once you press the trigger, the slide comes right off, and you can pull out your recoil spring guide rod, and there's your 5-inch barrel. So that's really all I have to say about the firearm. You know, it works fine, but you know, maybe if I would have thought about it a little bit more and not cared so much about the, we'll say, less than ideal holster and the things that you get with it, I may have purchased a different firearm. And I have purchased other firearms since this, and maybe we'll talk about those later. But my choice, why don't I go ahead and put this back together while I'm talking. My choice in buying this firearm actually reminds me of a Bible verse. And of course, I am pro-freedom. You know, if you choose to worship a different God than I do, I don't have a problem with you. As long as you are pro-firearm, then as far as I'm concerned, we are friends. But I do believe in Jesus, and I do believe in the Bible. And my purchase of this firearm reminds me of Isaiah chapter number 40 and verse number 31. It says, "They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint." You know, sometimes we make decisions too quickly And for those of you who believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, we're supposed to wait on God when we make decisions. And by waiting, that doesn't mean just sitting passively around and doing nothing. That means you do what you're supposed to do in that particular circumstance until God tells you to make a different move. And I don't know if God cares so much about my firearm choice, but maybe had I consulted him about the matter, he would have told me to make a different decision at that particular time. But I don't know if that'll make any sense to you about how the interestingly low capacity Springfield XD 40 caliber relates to Isaiah chapter number 40 and verse number 31, but I hope it means something to you.